And that is, that should be live. So thank you everyone who is listening live. Like I always do, I'm going to clip all this out and put it out afterwards. Today we are talking about Lessons from Leaders, which is a new show that I've started. I've got two people with me today. I've got James and Adam. How are you both? Welcome thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'm good, Neil. I'm good. Thanks for inviting me along. I think from the looks of it, James is having a couple of technical challenges, but yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to the chat.
We have had some technical difficulties, haven't we? Which is always the way, isn't it? When you're trying to get something like this sorted. But we'll muddle through, and I'm sure James will jump back on his phone shortly. Hopefully that'll all work. But yeah, thank you for coming today. For everyone who doesn't know who you are, do you want to just do sort of a brief introduction around, who you are, what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Adam Butler. The predominant business that I own and run is very imaginatively named, Neil. It's Adam Butler Consultancy.
I saw that.
Took me a long time to come up with that. And been running that now for almost 14 years. Over those 14 years, we've always been within the recruitment space. And we've had two main brands, Easy Online Recruitment being one of them, Adam Butler Consultancy. And we're just launching an executive search proposition called Hawk Butler. And that's designed to offer a bit of a hybrid solution to the market with some flexible options and obviously high value, high service offerings. So I don't know if there's any more I can tell you about that or any more that you want, Neil.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. So for a bit of context, I know James, who is currently not here, so it's not a great piece of context right now, who's still trying to join, who's having some technical difficulties with either the Wi-Fi or we'll sort it out, though I'm sure he'll be on shortly. I was trying to sell ATS software to James for 2 years. He said no, and we've been speaking a lot about we've spoken a lot because I've set up a business recently. So James and I were speaking. He was giving me some advice on what sort of the pitfalls are, what the best ways to go about setting up a business, and just all the things that you would never think of. And the more I spoke about it, the more sort of encouraged and scared I got about doing it at the same time. So that's what I wanted to talk about today was, you're very successfully, you've got very, very successful business. So does James. I know you set up multiple businesses, haven't you, Adam? And to teach people right now, because we're in a situation where so many people are either looking to set up a business or may potentially be out of work in the coming sort of months when the furlough ends. And is setting up a business the right thing for people? Is it the right route to go down? And I know that a lot of people are very, very, they've got a lot of trepidation around doing that because it is a scary thing to do, to set up on your own. But I think people who are confident in their talent, confident in what they do and the skill that they have, whatever that is, my background is obviously recruitment. I did that for 10 years. And whatever that skill is, this podcast will hopefully be able to help people and get some lessons from, you two leaders around, the pitfalls of that and how to avoid them and what the sort of the things that aren't so commonly spoken about that should be sort of looked at and acknowledged before going into something like this. I personally think it's a fantastic idea. If you've got the confidence and you've got the skills to set up a business. But there is sort of, when I first started this podcast, there was a barrier to entry with podcasts, really, because I didn't have a studio. You normally have to have a studio and have people in and cameras, and then now you can just do it from your house. So I was like, well, I'll do one then. Yeah. So it's very, very similar to sort of that. So I guess while we're sort of still waiting for James to come on, how many businesses have you set up over the years?
It's all been under one umbrella, really.
Okay.
So it's not a group of companies as such, but each individual. This is the beauty of starting a business. You give yourself flexibility for options and creating multiple streams of income from multiple different avenues. But the main three have been the Adam Butler Consultancy, which is typically contingency led, recruitment, although we do offer some managed service offerings, and we have done some outsourced provision for clients on volume assignments. The executive search side, which we've done some of in the past, but I felt now is a good time to give it its own separate brand and let it fly away on its own. Obviously, that's neat with the name Hawk Butler, and which is hopefully a little bit more imaginative than Adam Butler Consultancy. But also the easy online recruitment thing was interesting. That came out of the back of the last recession, effectively, where people were looking to start hiring again, but especially SMEs didn't want to attract the large fee cost that is associated with recruitment. So we put together a really neat flat fee, one-off cost recruitment service for them, which enabled them to effectively have an outsourced recruitment partner on an ad hoc basis. And
so you were the person taking all of my recruitment fees away when I was doing recruitment back then.
Yeah, that's been leveled at me a few times. But interestingly, I moved away from the flat fee, easy online brand because the market just became saturated with it. And what I recognized was we weren't like everyone else in that we were more interested in service and value rather than just cheap. You know, we were always more interested in getting a good fee for the hard work that we did. It was just that it was negotiated and paid in a slightly different way. So that's I'm sure that adds a little bit more meat to the bones. Mr. Cadwallader continues to have technical challenges.
Well, we will get there, I'm sure. It's it's fine. Thank you for that sort of that background. Then it's interesting to know that. So was it recruitment that you started in then? Was that your sort of original?
No. But before that, I worked in financial services. I worked in lending, did a lot within consumer finance, quite a lot within the motor industry. So probably the biggest company that I worked for was, the biggest company I worked for was General Motors. And I worked with Lloyds Banking Group. Then I worked with a smaller local provincial startup finance company. But the hook that got me was I always knew I wanted to start my own business. I didn't have the funds in the bank to start a finance company. So I thought, what could I do? And I'd been frustrated quite a few times with the service level and quality I'd received from recruiters. I believed I could do it better and consistent.
It's a low barrier, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's right. It can be. I mean,
I
had excellent experience and I had poor experience, and that was me late 2006 thinking, could I do this myself? And we forward the clock, and here we are.
Perfect. James, are you with us?
I can just about hear you and see you intermittently, so we'll do my best. Sorry about that.
No, it's absolutely fine. I mean, this is the nature of the beast these days, isn't it? Having to deal with all these sort of technical issues and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I was saying before, James, the way we know each other was I was trying to sell you ATS software for about 2 years now.
That's right.
And we ended up talking a lot about business. And I know that you obviously the both of you have set up companies in the past. And I think given the furlough and given that what may be happening, a lot of people may be in a position where they have to do that. They have to have that choice. Should I set up my own business? Should I set up on my own using the talents and the skills that I've learned over the years? And I think there's a really sort of high, I guess, emotional barrier to entry on that around sort of the confidence that you need and, the complete sort of unknowing. And there's only so much you can read about, and there's only so much you can sort of learn from sort of looking stuff up online to sort of going into a business. So, but yeah, for people who don't know who you are, James, do you want to just give a brief introduction?
Sure. My name's James Cadwallader. I run a couple of recruitment businesses, the main one being Seneca Bridge Resource Partners. Delivers mainly flexible RPO and flexible managed service solutions into the growing SME marketplace, which was a niche that we kind of stumbled on within the early days in terms of the target market. And the other business being a company called TC Jobs, which is our hospitality division. So that's where we're at currently. Been trading now for just coming up to 5 years.
Fantastic. We'll get onto the business side and in sort of in more depth in a few minutes. But I asked, what was Adam? You said you had the funniest thing that you've seen on a Zoom call or conference call since the lockdown started.
I
would have to say, should probably want to think of a better answer, but Brenda the inflatable doll, actually. Couple Zoom night one Saturday, someone single there, and he brought Brenda with him. So
I don't know if that's funny or really tragic.
No, I know exactly. We all thought the latter, to be honest.
Oh no, that's so bad. Well, at least oh God, can you imagine the process they went through? They must have had to go online, go on Amazon, order a laptop to come just for some company in the evening. That's hilarious.
Absolutely.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if I should really share it to save my own embarrassment, but you've heard the phenomenon of the Zoom bomb, I would imagine.
No.
Okay, Zoom bombing is where someone finds your link online and arrives unannounced on your call. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hosted a free to attend seminar with an HR professional on furlough and regulation. And we were interrupted halfway through that call by a young man from America called Ben Dover, who proceeded to take control of the screen and show some quite graphic content to the audience. Luckily, I've got the video footage that I'll be able to keep locked away under key. But what you learn is when you do, I always say. So I now know how to host a very secure, very hard to enter Zoom conference.
I didn't know you could do that. That's fantastic. That is really amazing. I remember when I was trying to get my my family. I tried to organize a family Zoom conference call on every Sunday, and that was a nightmare. But trying to talk through with my parents and everyone else how to get onto a Zoom call was more difficult than it definitely needed to be. But one of the things that I sent a link to my mum, but it was a link to obviously a meeting that I'd opened up at the time. And it was sort of a week previous. So she clicked on that link and was just in somebody else's Zoom call, just with 4 other random people from a week previous. And she was very strange because she went onto this call. It was clearly a business meeting, and she asked where I was. I was like, I wasn't on the call at all. She was very confused, but the poor people must have been even more confused than she was. Like, who's Neil? Yeah. We didn't invite him to this meeting. But so James, you said your business has been around for 5 years now.
Yeah.
And what was talk me through the process. So you're where are you in your head? And where to sort of decide, what, I'm going to start this. I'm going to start something of my own.
I think at the time, I've known for some time that eventually I'd always run my own business of some description. But for some time, I wasn't necessarily sure what that was going to be. And in fact, if you break my career down, I had two careers in recruitment. The first of which was within accountancy and financial services recruitment through until 2009. Banking crisis hit, etc., and then left the industry for a few years and came back and ended up working in an RPO environment. And so I've always had the intention of setting up my own business, whether it would be within recruitment or something I wasn't sure about. For me, it was just a case of, at the time, I felt that I'd done my job where I had been previously. It was a great role. It was a great opportunity. I learned an awful lot, and I worked with some great people within that. It was time to take those learnings. You mentioned confidence earlier. I'd grown, I'd matured, I'd gained a lot of confidence. Yeah. And actually, one of the other barriers I found to entry previously was having the capital to be able to do it. I've got mortgage, I've got electricity bills, I've got this, I've got that, I've got the other, and by and large, no capital behind me, and I wasn't quite living month to month, but I had nothing to say that I wouldn't need to have a salary for a number of months and so on and so forth. But there are ways and means, and the more I researched into it and looked into it and so on and so forth, was the other avenues of opportunities and the methods of being able to set a business up opened my eyes. And so combined all of those circumstances together, and I just felt that the time was right, really.
Yeah. So when you were thinking about setting up a business, was it based on your experience? So you'd worked in basically both sides of the fence, right? So the RPO side and then the recruitment side. What was your? Did you know I just want to start a business on my own and do what I've been doing previously, or was there a specific? I can see that there's something I can do differently in this space that I think is going to make me stand out to the people that are currently in that, to the potential competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having worked both within the agency and RPO environment, I've kind of over time learned what I believe are the best elements of both. Now, some people will think that they're different, and that's absolutely fine. We all operate in our own ways, but fundamentally, there's an awful lot to be said for an RPO solution or an RPO type solution. But I always found that traditionally, the main providers wouldn't be interested in providing their services to anything that's less than, say, 500 roles, 300, 400, 500 roles, hires per year. Now, for me, the growing SME marketplace is probably, is becoming the bedrock of the economy, really. Mm-hmm. So you can deliver, or the concept and the idea is, and always has been, that you can deliver RPO managed service type partnership-based recruitment to growing businesses that don't have the same volume need, but actually still have the same value requirement from you. And you can offer a lot more. From there, you can make your business more productive and efficient, and therefore there are certain operational and commercial savings out of the back end of it for everybody.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think, Adam, from your side, when you were, other than the ton of time that you spent thinking of the name of your company, must have been, I don't know where you got it from. What was your headspace like? What was your going into running a business and starting something from scratch? Where were you at?
It's a good question, and it seems like a long time ago now. So recalling it all accurately is difficult, but I think, as James has said, and I think as a lot of people would be, it feels like a massive step. Yeah. I remember talking to a potential mentor about it, and he said, you can definitely do it, but you'll need to put your big boys trousers on, and they'll feel really baggy and like they don't fit because it's so unusual and uncomfortable for you. But only by taking the step will you know if it's the right thing for you or not. And you don't want to live your life wishing you'd done something. And I think the lesson from that for me was, and the lesson for anyone thinking about doing something, whether it's recruitment or setting up a bookstall and selling cakes on a market stall on a Saturday, whatever, that there's never a better time to do something than right now. Whether that right now comes in 5 years' time or you've been thinking about it for a while, the best time is now. Sure, you've got to do some planning and cash flow forecasting and things that sound complicated but invariably aren't. So my headspace was all around, can I, should I, will I regret it if I don't? But actually taking that, and I always refer to it as the leap of faith, the truth about setting up your own businesses, whether you're funding backed or you're bankrolling it like I did at the time with some credit card checks, the truth is you'll only know when you jump out and take that leap of faith. But and it sounds very spiritual, it's not really me, but the universe does conspire to help you when you 100% commit to go and do something. Yeah. Things happen to enable you to start living what the life that you want to be living, but you can only do it when you take that leap of faith. And there's never a better time than now, whether it's economic poor conditions or economic brilliant conditions. You've got to take that first step. And I think that's how my head was, unsure, uncertain. And the final bit I'd say on that is you've got to have passion and enthusiasm for what you do, because it'll start off well. It usually does. You don't carry on if it doesn't start off well. You give up quickly. But dark times or hard times will come. But as long as you've got passion, enthusiasm, and a good pinch of self-belief, with those things, you can achieve whatever you want to. If you haven't got passion and enthusiasm for it, though, don't bother doing it. Don't bother doing it just because you're chasing the cash. But if you have got passion and enthusiasm, it'll put fuel in your tank for when challenges come, and challenges will come, but the passion and enthusiasm will see you through it. I'm absolutely certain of that.
I think that's fantastic advice. I think you're right. If you're not fully committed to something and you don't enjoy it, I think then I just don't think you'd have the patience and to sort of get through if there is any tough times. I think that a lot of what you said around, when you were starting your business and where you were starting it from, I think the barrier to entry, because you were talking about, credit cards, etc. And James, you touched on the backing side of things as well. Do we now think that the barrier to entry is going to be a lot lower because, you don't need an office, for example, anymore to start up a business? You don't need a lot of those other overheads that typically would cost a lot of money a month when setting up a business. Do you think that those the barrier to entry is now a lot lower for people looking to set up a business, now, tomorrow, or next year?
Mm-hmm. Let James take that one. Can you hear us, James? I don't think you can hear us just now. I'll answer that question.
You answer that one then.
Yeah. I think the barriers to entry for so many businesses are very, very low now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a business that needs a lot of cash, then you need to go and find the cash. You should never let a lack of cash stand in the way of pursuing what it is that you want. There's so much access to cheap cash.
Yeah.
Even if you don't qualify for some of the government funded initiatives at the moment, cash has never been cheaper than it is now. Interest rates are at an all-time low, and they're not looking like they're suddenly going to spring. So there's access to cash. I mean, even 14 years ago, I had a bit more hair here and a bit less white here. But I started my business with a laptop, a phone, and a contact book. Now that's because recruitment is, traditionally known to be it can be a low cost startup venture. But now it's even better because computers are faster. Mobile internet, 4G on your mobile phone is faster than most internet to houses. You can do it from anywhere. I think people are moving away from office requirements and the overhead that is attracted by that. And as I say, technology's better and faster than it's ever been. Technology for recruitment is better and faster than it's ever been. Technology for everything. You can set up a Shopify account in 20 minutes on a e-commerce website that you can buy off the shelf from Squarespace.
Yeah.
Where's the barrier?
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I think that I mean, when I was starting this podcast, I think it was 99 pence to buy the domain, and then £7 a month or something like that. I was like, I mean, that's less than I pay for Netflix. And I've got pretty much everything that I need to get it done, other than this mic, which was ridiculously expensive. Well, I got sent a list by a friend of mine who does podcasts, and they sent a sort of a this is the high end one, this is the mid tier one, this is the lower. The high end one was like £500. Like I'm not. I've only done 4. I'm not paying that much money for.
That sounds great.
Oh, well, good. It's the first time I've used it. So hopefully it is working. But James, do you want to add to Adam's answer on that? The sort of barrier to entry to set up now is a lot lower, I believe.
I agree. Just to let you know, I don't have an audio link to Adam, so I haven't heard a word he said. However, in terms of barrier to entry, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not only barriers to entry in terms of and so apologies if I'm repeating anything that Adam said, but it's not only necessarily barriers to entry in terms of cost of rent, rates, etc., being able to work from home, being technology today and things like that. Mm-hmm. There's so much more on offer even now from even 5 years ago when I started, in terms of better access to finance, a lot more in terms of mentoring and coaching and support. And I think a breakdown in terms of the corporate mold. If we look back 5-10 years ago, huge barrier to entry in terms of how can I compete with Michael Page, for example. Okay, but the corporate world's being chipped away at now, and there's less need for a client to rely on a corporate recruiter. Relationships are key, and so with that change in attitude and the access to finance, the different methods of crowdfunding through the banks, this, that, the other, the likes of Starling, so on and so forth, that's much more freely available. So is advice, and so is the ability to win clients. So all around, as well as the cash.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really important for people to remember. One of the things that I was doing research into setting up a business, and it seemed like there was going to be a ton of hidden costs and a ton of pitfalls that I was going to come up against, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for that to happen, and it didn't. There was to register a business in the UK, I believe, costs £12 right now. Yeah, I believe that's what it is, and it's the barrier to entry is super, super low, and I think that's can only be a positive thing for people. And there's nothing to say that you can't be doing setting up this business while you're currently working where you are. It doesn't have to be a drop everything right now, I quit and go and do it. And now, especially if people are furloughed, there's never been a better time to do it, because there is no real monetary cost that's going to be an issue. So I think. I think that it's going to be the perfect time for a lot of people to set up their own business, especially from a recruitment perspective. I think that it's going to be. Look, it'd be great to hear from you guys. What were sort of the biggest challenges and biggest sort of pitfalls to avoid when looking at starting up a business, whether it be recruitment or otherwise? What are the things that you could, from your experience, tell people now that are thinking about doing this to help them through the process?
Is Adam talking?
No.
Okay. So if I jump in just before Adam, because I can't tell whether he's answering anything. The three things for me are that you have to be very careful about, and that can potentially cause pitfalls, and I speak from experience, really, is partners and support. You inevitably need it. Everybody does. Day one of setting up a business, I promise anybody that's thinking about it, what they know on day one to what they know on day 365 are miles and miles apart. So you absolutely need a support network there in place. The other key things for me that can potentially be pitfalls are if you're not decisive. I think being a business owner and trying to start up a new company, you have to, have a gut and have a strength of feeling and be able to back your own decisions and make those decisions. I think too often people can get caught in a state of procrastination and think, well, should I do this, or should I strategize this, or should I, focus on this first? And actually, you soon get to a point where nothing gets done. Just go and do things, make things happen. Yeah. In terms of the partners, again, that's really, the biggest challenge that I faced when I set up. I set up in a joint venture with a couple of business partners. Ultimately, that didn't work for various reasons, people in it for different reasons, and so on and so forth, and various areas of support. I won't dwell on that, and the reasons why, but it basically meant that it cost me 12 to 15 months and the best part of £30,000 to rectify the situation. Wow. So actually, if I could have my time again, the business could be 12, 18 months further down towards where I wanted it to be now. However, that said, at the same time, learned a lot through the process, and the business is in a great place as a result of the actions that we made.
I think the key thing that I keep hearing from people when I talk to them about this is having that support network around you.
Yeah.
Having someone that you can ring up and say, look, can we speak for 20 minutes? This is the situation. What should I do? Or can I get your advice on that? I think if you're going to set up a business, one of the best things to do is to reach out to people that have recently done it, or people that have created a successful version of what you're trying to create. And you would be amazed at how happy people are to talk about it. especially, people love bragging about their how well they've done. So if you are someone who's set up a very successful business in the area you want to, then they'll happily tell you about it. Most people, anyway. I have come across a couple that are particularly why would I tell you? but yeah, most people, I think. So the reason I say that is, don't be. I'd say to people, don't be concerned that you don't currently have a support network, or you don't know a ton of CEOs of successful businesses in your sector. Just reach out to them on LinkedIn. Reach out to them via email, and I think most people would be happy to give at least some of their time to help someone in the industry, or help someone come into the industry. Adam, same question to you then. What would be the best pieces of advice, or what were the biggest pitfalls that people should watch out for from your experience setting up a business?
Yes, I'd echo everything that you've both said, and I think it's so important to surround yourself with the right people, and the right people might not be the ones that live in the house with you. Yeah. And that's absolutely fine, because everyone wants, it feels sometimes like everyone is expecting you to fail, or you're worried that might be the case. I know from personal experience, I spoke to a few of the wrong people about it, and they kind of said, that most businesses fail within the first 12 months. Yeah. And I was like, oh, right. Okay. And then I got through the first 12 months, and the same people said, well done. But that most businesses fail within the first, the ones that get through the first 12 months, 80% of them fail before 2 years are out. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop talking to you.
Stop talking to those people, yeah.
And they didn't mean it. All they want to do is protect you. But that means they're just made of slightly different stuff. And you need to have a network of like-minded support, I guess. And that can be easy to find if you know where to look. I know that James and I would willingly give up some of our time to help anyone that wanted to ask any questions, as I'm sure would you, Neil. I think outside of that, the most important thing that I learned in my first 12 months was that I, as Liam Neeson would say, I have a very particular set of skills, and investing my time or energy outside of those skill sets is a waste of time. I spent 3 or 4 days over a week working out how to do my own VAT return, and it's time I'll never get back. I know how to do it, but what I've realized is that there are people that absolutely love doing that stuff, and while they're doing that to an expert level, I can spend all of my time on the phone, or meeting clients, or business developing, or setting up marketing campaigns. So, it seems like the best investment of your money not to spend it with someone else to do that stuff. But the best advice is just find a brilliant accountant or bookkeeper that can do it for you, and do the same with all of your other admin tasks. Give as much of that, like raising invoices. I always raised my first few invoices because it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
After the first few, I got a bit bored of it, and I gave the job to someone else. And then I didn't have to worry about raising the invoice, or creating the debt collection schedule, or chasing the money. And actually, it made me look like a bigger business at the time as well. But it meant that all of my working day could be focused on quality service delivery and sales and marketing exercises, because that's the stuff that's going to mean I've got the money to pay myself and invest in my business going forward. So outsource all the non-essential tasks and give it to someone that's expert at doing that, and you'll set yourself up the very best chance of creating the business that you want.
Yeah, I think they're all fantastic points. I think the sort of takeaways from that for me were: use your time wisely. So make sure that you're not, like you said, I bet it is exciting doing the first few invoices, though. I imagine
it is. I visualized it in my mind. I'd seen it working so that I could get there, but it wasn't a great use of my time.
Yeah. Also, it had Adam Butler at the top of the page, didn't it? So,
of course it did.
Yeah, good. I think using your time wisely is super important. There was another point that you made that escapes me now. That was that it will come back to me at some point. But I think that in terms of the other pitfalls and what goes on in the first couple of years, that was it. You were talking about people being negative around it's going to fail most businesses fail in the first 12 months. There's a lot of that. I don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand it. And I can kind of see where you're coming from when you said that they're just sort of looking to protect you. But I think when I spoke to someone in my family about that, I won't name them, but I spoke to someone in my family about when I was setting up something new, and they said, well, what if it fails? It's just most similar to what you said, what if it fails? What if it doesn't go the way you want it to? I was like, well, then it doesn't, but at least I'm going to go and go and try it in the first instance. And I think with the barrier to entry being so low at the moment, with there being so much advice and people willing to help out there right now, there's no real excuse for not doing it. If you're in, especially, we all come from recruitment backgrounds, so I'll speak specifically about recruitment now. If you're a recruiter right now and you have and you are furloughed, I think now is the absolute best time to be setting up a business. I think that there's a ton of people out there that would be willing to help with that, and there's a ton of people out there that would be willing to support you in that. What's your later on down the line? So in the first year, I'm sure it's all very new and very exciting. As a business grows, what's the best piece of advice? Who should you hire first? Do you hire someone, like you said, not sort of including accountants and those sort of people in the business? But when it comes time to start hiring, what's the best piece of advice you have around that, around how to grow? And from your experience, what's been the biggest pitfalls?
Let's pass that to James.
Can you hear? Do you want to take that one, James?
Yeah, sure, no problem at all. I think the best way to answer that question is the first hire should absolutely be someone that complements your skill sets. So, for example, I'll talk about myself and some degree of experience. Very very much more commercially operated, client focusing, described as a much better leader than a manager. Okay. And that's where my bias kind of sits, very much commercial client leadership rather than minutiae operational day-to-day responsibility. So the first hire that I made, and still critical to the business to this day now, was a strong operations manager that is going to be able to make sure that processes, controls, and actually best practice is adhered to regularly. Someone else may well already have those skills, in which case they don't need to hire for that. So it's whatever is going to balance your skills and mitigate your weaknesses the best for me.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Adam, what's your opinion?
Very much the same. And I think it's about hiring the gaps. On day one, if it's just you on your own, well, you've got to be head cook and bottle washer. You've got to be marketer, seller. You've got to be delivery, and you've got to be finance. You've got to get out of that as quickly as possible. But you've got to understand where the gaps are. So if you're not great at marketing, you might want to consider finding some marketing support, because you can't really run your business without inquiries. If you're not great at admin and finance, get the admin and finance support. So hire in the gaps to strengthen your overall team. And secondly, I would say, and really importantly, we know this in recruitment, find someone that not just seems to have the right skills, but find someone that's going to match the culture that you want to foster and develop. Find someone that matches you in the early stages, because it just can't work without that. You've got to be able to my simple test for that is, could I sit on a train with you for 4 hours without wanting to kill you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I think I could sit on a train with you for 4 hours and we'd still be friends at the end of it, well, I'm likely to invite you in, because I know that we've got enough in common that it's going to work. And then I need to find someone that's better at finance than me, or better at marketing than me, or better at... And it's not about being friends with the people.
Yeah.
Although I've got no problem with being friends with the people that I work with. I think it's a strength. But you've got to be able to have difficult conversations with them. But there's got to be enough crossover with the values to mean that when the tough times come once again, you've got enough commonality to be able to have sensible conversations and push through, but hire in the gaps and hire for the fit that you want.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's you basically both said very similar things, right? Hire people that are going to complement, well, not your weaknesses per se, but the things that would sort of the opposite, or that you're lacking in either experience or talent in. So yeah, I think that's super good advice. In terms of just, I want to sort of, we've got a few minutes left, so I want to just get some sort of final thoughts from you both. To people right now out there that are looking to set up their own business, or they're furloughed right now, they're in a position where they've got they're thinking about this, and they don't know whether they should make that leap, as you put it before. Adam, if you had sort of one piece of advice, or one piece of this is what I would do, what would that be, James?
I think looking at it from a recruitment point of view, first and foremost, is make sure that there's a difference. Make sure that you have a story to tell that is offering something of either additional value, or that is something that's genuinely unique. Because there is a saturated marketplace. There is a marketplace that in some parts and in some quarters, actually, we can talk about the positives and negatives of the commercial arrangements of how the recruitment industry is set up. So have a niche, give clients a need to use you above and beyond anyone else, apart from going and offering the same thing again. On a more general sense, and on a more general term, is trust yourself, back yourself. You don't have to have a picture perfect CV. I mean, for example, between the age of 20 and 32, I had 9 jobs. Well, I had 10 jobs with 9 different employers over 3 years. But for me, that I don't believe that wasn't because I wasn't a good recruiter, or wasn't good at my job, and because there's that stigma around flaky candidates and workers and things like that. I just didn't find my home. I didn't necessarily have the right culture. So if you have tried and not necessarily failed, but tried at places and you've moved and so on and so forth, it doesn't mean that you have any less credibility within your industry, whether that's recruitment, whether it's car sales, whatever it is. As long as you are there trying to make sure that you're trying to find the right system for you. I feel like I've waffled a bit there.
No, I think that's it's a really good point. I had a very similar time to you. I think I worked in sort of 6 or 7 different places across 3 years, but until I found somewhere that I that worked for me. And it is disheartening. It's disheartening, isn't it, when you're in that sort of situation.
And so that was between 20 and the early 30s, and then right place comes. We look 9-10 years down the line. I've had employed for nearly 6 years with one business, and I've been running my own for the last 4 and a bit. It really is just circumstantial, or it can be circumstantial anyway. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the important thing to remember there as well is you make your own culture, don't you? If you're going to set up and you're going to make your own business, if you don't feel like you, fit in with cultures elsewhere, again, it's a perfect opportunity to create your own culture.
Absolutely. Inevitably, when you do that and you create a business and that business is delivered in your way within the culture that you define, you're going to enjoy it more. You're going to get much more out of it. The next challenge then is imparting that culture and that value proposition and the values that you have to the rest of your team as the business grows.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much. That was, I think that's a perfect sort of note for advice for anyone looking to set up a recruitment business. Adam, what would you say to the same question?
Yeah, and there are changes. There's been changes coming for a while, and COVID's fast forward some of those. Yeah. Actually, it's not a great thing for the world to have a pandemic, but there are going to be some positives that come out of it. The gig economy had already arrived, hadn't it? The way people operate and work and want to live their lives and be in charge of their own time and freedom was already upon us. I think you will see that step up a level beyond this, post-COVID, as we're calling it now. I think the personal brand piece is so important. You don't need to have the branding of a large corporate behind you anymore. Build your own personal brand. It's the best asset you've got. Don't be afraid to fail. You know, the Americans versus the British, there's loads of bad things about the Americans, I'm sure. But when you go for venture capital funding or seed funding in Silicon Valley, one of the key questions they'll all ask you is, how many businesses have you failed at? And if you say, I've never failed, they'll say, oh, well, come back in 5 years when you have, because I don't want to give you any money. I don't want you to make the mistakes on my money. Make the mistakes on your money. And then when you know what you're doing, you know, I'll give you some cash. So fail fast, learn from it. The beauty of doing your own thing is that you don't have to compromise anymore. You're in charge of your own destiny. And I would say, find someone to talk to about it, you know, chat it through. But most importantly, put your best foot forward and just do it. If you're thinking about it, it's because you've got something inside you that says, I want to do this. So put your big boys trousers on, just like my mentor told me all those years ago, or put your big girls trousers on, or whatever trousers it is you need to find, put them on, belt up your boots and get outside and do it, because that's where it all really starts to happen.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's great. I think you're right. If you're listening to this right now, and you've liked, and the title of this podcast is something that's intrigued you, then you are that type of person, aren't you? There is going to be something that is intriguing you to, or sort of pushing you towards, I should be looking at this, or I should definitely look into creating a business, or look into how easy or hard or that it's going to be, and have those sort of conversations with yourself, and work out what's going to be, if that's going to be the best option for you. So that's all that I wanted to ask you guys. Is there anything that you wanted to speak about? We've got a few minutes left. Anything specific at all?
Is anyone talking?
No.
I think for me, really, just to finish off with, over the last 4 years, 4.5 years, I've been flat out, you know, finger to the grindstone, just flat out. And actually, a lot of the time, I felt like I'm on a hamster wheel, and so on and so forth. Coronavirus has been a terrible thing. You know, the whole pandemic is having disastrous consequences across every realm of life possible. But just to finish up things on a positive thought, is take whatever time is left of lockdown and this slowdown in the economy to think, to strategize, to really think about what you appreciate. And then from a business perspective, it's given me a great opportunity for the first time, really, since I set the business up, to hold, manage the day to day as we go along. And thankfully, we've got some temps out and so on and so forth and work going on. But actually, really now it's given me a great 10, 12 week period to look at what the next 5 years looks like. If that hadn't happened, I dare say we'd have got to December and I'd have been on the same hamster wheel. So in some respects, I'm not grateful for the situation, obviously, but actually I feel like I've been able to take a number of positives out of that, and that being one of them, and then developing a lot of relationships across the industry and within my network has been another. So take the time and do what you can with it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's great. Adam, is there anything you'd like to add or finish off with?
I'll just follow on from that slightly to say, James is absolutely right. Take some time and maybe ask yourself some questions. And I think the questions are, what are you good at? What do you love doing? Because going back to that passion and enthusiasm, you'll need that in abundance. You'll need that in abundance, even if things go incredibly well, because there'll be frustration somewhere along the line. So what are you good at? What do you love doing? And then turn your attention to, how can I make some money or add some value to get paid for my work in that area? And if you can answer those questions, what am I good at and what do I love doing? You will be able to find a way to make a living out of it. And I think the final piece that I'll just end with there is, always start with an idea of where you want to end up. Is that a lifestyle business? Is it a scalable business? Is it a business in the Shard? Is it a business in the Cotswolds? Start with where you want to end up, because with that vision, it will inform the decisions that you'll need to make along the way. What am I good at? What do I love doing? Where do I want to end up? And how can I make some money out of it? And I think with that framing your decisions, you won't go far wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to see where you are in 5 years' time and have that as a goal. That could be, what you're wearing, where you're living. It could be every last detail of what you want your life to look like in with the business, with your life, with like I said, what your clothing, your location. If you have that image in your head of I want to be here, and you have that, like you said, to start off with, then I think that's super important. And there's something to sort of drive and achieve and drive towards, as it were, when you get, for example, the times get tough, or if there's something like a pandemic like we're all experiencing right now, having that goal in mind is always very important. Well, look, I think there's a ton of really useful content that we've got out of this, and really, really good advice. I will be clipping this all up, taking all the best bits out. I think there's going to be quite a few videos that come out of this, and posting it all on the LinkedIn page, on the Facebook page, and I'll get them all over to you guys as well, so you can put them out on your respective channels as well. So yeah, I guess the last thing to say is thank you so much for your time. It's been super, super informative, and yeah, hopefully we can do this again soon at some point.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Cheers, Neil.
Thank you very much for the invite. I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Despite the technical issues I brought to the table early doors.
Well, we got there in the end, didn't we?
Absolutely.
We did.
Of course we did.
Good job.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time.